All right, we're spending time now with Steve Young from Auto Tech, and we've talked a little bit about various cars and different things to look at. Now, one of the things that I get asked about, or I hear about a good bit now these days, is having the proper amount of air
in
your tires, and that affects
fuel mileage.
Fuel mileage.
Yeah, it would.
Now, how does that work?
Too little air does a couple things. It creates more drag too. You have more contact area on the road.
Okay, so that's what
more
it is.
drag.
More contact of your tire.
Correct, on the road.
And it makes it drag.
It'll make it, yeah.
And it makes your mileage go down.
And it can wear the tires out as well too.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. I understand that part of it, but I've never understood the theory of.
Yeah, because the tire basically, you want it to be level, but to a certain degree it bows up when you're driving it. A centrifugal force will bow the tire up. So when it comes around, a smaller portion of it is touching the road. You don't want, you want to have good contact, especially with the rain or whatnot. You don't want to hydroplane, but using the proper amount of air, what the car manufacturer recommends is the best way to go. Usually inside the driver's door, they have a sticker that tells you what it needs to be. And all the newer cars from 07 up, every one of them should have a tire monitoring system. So if it's low, a light comes up on the dash, and you need to fill your tires up properly.
Well, we'll have to check that, because I swear my tire looked slack. And this brings up a question, and I'm sort of getting out of order of how I was going to ask the question, but I looked at the back rear tire. It looked to me by sight that it needed air. So I drove over to the little Exxon station across from you, 50 cents for air, put my 50 cents in, and I didn't have my tire gauge. I was like, uh-oh. So I just put some in and got it to where, that looks pretty good. Now, what is the danger? I guess the danger of that is putting too much air in and having it too inflated. So what does that do?
It'll wear the tires out in the center because it's putting too much air in it, and it bows the tire up all the time. And you have good tread on the sides, and the center of it will wear down. So improper tire wear. Same thing if it's underinflated. The sides of it will wear out, and the inside's not getting a good contact, so the inside will look better than the outside.
Okay, well, I've experienced that. That's the more common thing that people are going to run into. But too much air, does that affect your gas mileage? Or
no, not really. No.
So actually, it might make it better.
It could, but you don't want to run the risk of ruining your tire.
Yeah, the money that you saved just went out the door with the new tires that you have to do.
It's not going to blow up or anything going down the road.
And if you don't have a gauge, is there?
You need to get a gauge. Yeah.
And I do. I just didn't have it with me.
Yeah. Use your calibrated eye. Right.
I actually had my son's somehow or another in trading of cars with all the things we've been doing. I had his gauge. His gauge doesn't work. It's pretty worthless. So get a tire gauge and carry it with you.
Correct.
And now some of these little air stations you can go to
has a gauge on it.
Has a gauge on it, and that's helpful. Or they can come by Auto Tech and y'all put air in.
Yeah, do it for free. That's what I want to ask. Why didn't you stop over? Since you didn't have your gauge.
I knew that was going to come up. I didn't know I didn't have my gauge, and I was just driving along and said, I'll just swing by here. I mean, that's what I've done since I was a child, or a kid driving, is go by the little air stations and do it myself. So it's a whole habit. It's hard to break. And of course, the thought did go through my mind is, why didn't I just stop?
Well, there afterwards, you could have come by and we could have checked it afterwards and let you know if you put the proper amount in there.
Yeah, but it's time to go to work. You know how it goes. We get down there and start talking about stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
And we'll get off on going to Springsteen benefits and things.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But okay, so the first thing to do is have a gauge with you if you're going to do it yourself.
Correct.
Make sure that you got it. Now, obviously, if the air keeps going out of it,
you have a leak. Yeah, exactly.
And you need to take it. But actually, you would send that to Tyler Tire, wouldn't you?
A lot of times I will, yeah.
Because
a lot of times we do the stuff ourselves. I mean, we sell tires and we do a lot of the service work as well. But if the tire needs to be, patched, I usually just send it down there to Tyler's and talk to Travis or Johnny or Deanne.
Yeah, because y'all have a working relationship.
Correct. Yeah.
With them.
Yeah. They do really good work.
And they work on cars, but y'all trade. Yeah,
the more higher end stuff, a lot of that stuff that we'll help them with, they'll send it to us and we'll take care of it for them.
Yeah, I can remember when the Volkswagen, we were getting the tires checked out and rotated, and Johnny going, you need to take this to Steve. We're not going to know what to do with the German car. Do you rotate tires for people too?
Oh, yeah. Actually, that's part of a service. I mean, depending on, like Mercedes, they have A service, B service. On the newer ones, they're like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, A, B, C, D, E, and F, that sort of thing. BMW service 1, service 2, and you have a checklist you go down, and a lot of it is rotating the tires. And if customers come in and just want an oil change, we change the oil, check the belts, the hoses, the air, and the tires. And if tires need rotated, we'll ask them, see if they want to rotate, and we'll just pop them off, swap them around for them.
Now, how often should you come by? Should you take your car by to get it serviced?
Usually, on average, it's 3,000 miles. But with oils nowadays, I mean, they've gone a little bit longer, 3,000 to 5,000. If you're running synthetics, you can go up to 10,000 miles. Now, really? Some of them are even 15. Mercedes and BMWs, the way their timers are set in the system where it pops up, it goes a long time before it pops up in time for service on the car. Oh. And it'll let you know. It has an indicator in there.
And that's only based on the oil?
Well, based on a lot of things. Idling, it has a timer in there, and it's based on idling time, driving time, and it counts itself down. And once it does, then it'll pop up on the dashboard and let you know it's time to get your car serviced. It's basically like a reminder.
Yeah, and of course that's on the newer cars. If you have
correct,
the
older cars, we put an oil change sticker up in there, come back 3,000, 5,000 miles, and then just kind of go from there. An older car usually needs to be checked out. Of course, more than a newer car, just because of the age with the hoses and everything. You got something that's got 5,000 miles on it, and you got something that's got 105,000 miles on it. With 105, you definitely want to check that one out more than one with 5,000 miles.
And filters are another thing. Mm-hmm. How many filters does a car have? Is it very
depends on what it is.
Yeah.
New cars, cabin air filters, basically pollen filters that clean the air from the outside coming into the car, or basically recirculating the air in the car and just cleans it out basically like your home unit does. And those have to be serviced regularly too.
So, from a standpoint of is there a set number of miles for that, or
no? I mean, if you go by your maintenance, yes. But some people don't, or they have so many X amount of miles on the car, then their book only goes up so far. And then after that, then basically you just bring it in for a regular check, and we check a lot of that stuff. And I get a lot of people in the summertime. When the winter is fine, summertime they're starting to run the air conditioning more. You get the condensation. They have a funny smell inside their car, and a lot of times this cabin air filter needs to be serviced because it'll get mold and it'll get some buildup on there.
Right. So one of the good things, and I've found this to be true of dealing with you, is you bring your car in for servicing, and you go through the process of seeing. You'll find things that need to be taken care of, like the brakes are this close to start to squeal.
Yeah.
And brakes, they do have the little squealing thing, but sometimes brakes will squeal when they don't need to be replaced.
Correct, yeah. If they get glazed, or if you get a lot of brake dust built up, a lot of times the brakes will, the dust that comes off that you get on your rims, a lot of times that'll get in there, and when you apply the brakes, you hear a squeal, which a squeal is basically a whistle, and what it is, air just going between the gap between the rotor and the pad, and it's a whistling is what it is. And it's not going to hurt anything if the brake pad's fine. It's just it's an annoyance more than anything.
Right, and sometimes you wonder, but I've had that experience too. It's squealing. Do I need to replace it? And y'all will look at it and go, no, it doesn't need to. And that's a little bit more of a peace of mind type thing.
Correct. Yeah.
Because if you go too long, your pad's going to wear out. You get metal on metal, and I've been through that.
Now that's a safety issue. Yes.
Well, it's a safety issue. Plus, it costs more money when you kill the brakes.
Yeah.
You need more than pads. You need the whole metal thing.
Well, a lot of the German cars as well, and they have indicators that come on and let you know when it's time to replace the brakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's amazing the things that cars will do, the newer cars.
Yeah, exactly.
And that give the automobile manufacturers credit. They have come up with things of reasons aside from just wanting a pretty new car. There are good reasons in terms of just the maintenance issues that go along to make it work better. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to explain all these things with us.
It was a lot of fun.
What we're going to do going forward, Steve's going to come, if not every week, every so often, a couple times a month at least, and we're going to talk about things. So do send your messages in and ask your questions, and he'll be glad to answer them. Yeah. And if you have some desperate need, I'll get in touch with you before then and email you back and let you know.
Okay, sounds great.
All right,
it's good seeing you.
It's good seeing you. All right, Steve Young from Autotech.